Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I am just brimming with excitement to have Kayla Ihrig with us because she is launching her book, How to Be a Digital Nomad, tomorrow. And so it wasn't really planned. We got on to do the podcast and I found out she was launching her book. I'm like, oh no, we're going to help you launch your book. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn today because that's actually the topic of today's podcast. But towards the end, we'll talk about her book, the process, how you can get it. And let's just really support Kayla as a new author with her first book and just really helping her to have a fantastic book launch. Welcome to the show, Kayla.
Thanks for having me, Kim. It's so nice to be here.
So Kayla bought a one-way ticket out of the United States because usually we hear about people buying tickets in. She bought one out in 2017 and has spent most of her time abroad ever since. She was pushed by the feeling that life was passing her by at her 9-to-5 job, so she found work online and fumbled her way through an attempt at executing the exact lifestyle she wanted. But as a writer for publications like HubSpot and GoDaddy, and those are big names, she built an online business that now supports both her and her husband as they drift around the world. Kayla, let's get into today's topic. So we want to talk a little bit why LinkedIn is an underused platform and what we can do about it. So I would love for you to share, just first of all, why is LinkedIn underused?
I don't know why people are not giving LinkedIn more love. It seems like everyone with a brand or a blog or any aspiring content creator, they can tell you about how much they've poured into Instagram. I recently talked to a woman. She said, I've been posting on Instagram every day for 5 years and I'm still not getting results. And I thought, oh my gosh, LinkedIn, imagine that investment on LinkedIn, 5 years every day. You would have such a big platform. I think people think it's maybe a little intimidating because it feels like all your old colleagues are watching you, or that it's like a resume and you're not supposed to do anything fun. I'm not sure what the misconception is, but LinkedIn, I always say it's like one of those like ticket machines at an arcade whenever you're a little kid and you like put tokens in and then you get tickets out. That's LinkedIn. What you invest, you will get out. It's magic.
I think people think it's the stuffy social media, for just high-end professionals and maybe those looking for a job. But personally, I love LinkedIn. It is my preferred platform. It's actually where this podcast episode's going live, that and on YouTube. And I think LinkedIn's a great place, especially as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. It's the place I can go and be me.
Oh yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people feel that though. I think it's a very authentic platform. And maybe that's counterintuitive because at first it seems like everybody's like putting on their business face, they're putting on their like 9-to-5 personality, but I think it's the opposite. I think people are really themselves.
Well, I think, if you're not in like heavily into career, heavily into business, LinkedIn might not be your place. But if you are an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, a freelancer, a professional, a coach, or a speaker, and you're looking for a place where you can be you in your professional side, let's say, so it's not like, I do post the occasional personal thing on LinkedIn. It's not like you can't, but it's where it allows the professional side of me to shine, my authentic professional me.
Yeah.
So, Facebook is where you post the other stuff, right? And Instagram and those places. But, I am an entrepreneur. I'm proud of an entrepreneur. It's a big part of who I am. And so LinkedIn for me is home because that's where I get to be and shine as, this major part of me.
Yeah, it's really nice to feel that way about a platform. And I feel like you see other people feel that way as well. You see other people genuinely making really genuine content, really trying to make connections and friends and trying to help each other out. I just think it's the most authentic place on the internet.
Yeah, I agree. So, Kayla, let's talk a little bit about your story. I read a little bit about it in your bio there, but let's go into it a little bit deeper. So, share with us some more about your story.
Well, I left the corporate world in 2017, and it kind of what really led me to feeling like I cannot get what I want out of the corporate world was this feeling from my last year of college. Whenever I was a senior in college, 7 people in my life died. And I entered the working world with this super intense awareness that I might get hit by a bus tomorrow. I cannot waste my time. So I spent a year working at a nonprofit, and the mission was so important and the work was so important, but I felt like a lot of people were unhappy because they didn't have enough money. And then I went into the corporate world where people had enough money, and some people were genuinely happy, but I didn't feel like it was the norm. And I even asked some colleagues once at a dinner, if you had to do it all again, would you choose this same career field? And only one person said yes. Everyone else said no, they would try something else. And I just thought, statistically speaking, I'm not convinced I can get what I want out of this road I'm on. So I went freelance as a writer, and I became a digital nomad and started traveling. I got rid of my apartment, and I'm living like that now as well. I did have an apartment for a while in the Netherlands. So I've been abroad for 6 years. I visit the US. I go home and visit, but I haven't lived there since. And now my husband and I, yeah, we have no apartment. We only have 2 backpacks each, and that's all of our stuff. And I couldn't find anyone who regretted traveling. I kept asking everybody, if you went traveling, did you regret it? What were the downsides? And everyone kept saying no one regrets traveling. And I also think that entrepreneurs say it as well. Entrepreneurs who succeed at running their businesses, no one tells you that everyone tells you it was worth it. So to me, it felt like the safe bet of, yeah, looking back without regrets on how I was spending my time.
Well, and the thing is too is that it was a little bit easier for you. Not that you can't do it with kids, but it definitely
Oh
has a
yeah,
lot of
easier
complications when you
than
have
ever.
kids. When it's just the two of you, definitely makes it a little bit easier to live that nomad. But the way I look at it too is that it's not just about being able to travel. Like you can be in your own home and still be a digital nomad,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah. If you're
it's
working
bucking the
online,
norm.
yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So, how did you end up writing for HubSpot and GoDaddy?
I got those through networking. So I was publishing my own writing already on my website, writingfromnowhere.com. I started that as I wanted a blog. I saw a lot of people making money from blogging, and I thought that's interesting. I didn't set out with this attitude that I was going to retire on my blog and that would be my big money maker. But I thought, you know what? I don't know what's there, and I want to find out. So I started writing for myself, and I learned SEO, and I learned how to write digital content people wanted to read. I came from the print world. Well, I wasn't there very long, but I did write for a newspaper. That was my first writing gig, was doing a daily newspaper. I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I thought, oh, I don't know how to write for the digital space. So I think I want to learn. And I spent years improving my writing, like a good 2 years writing for myself before anyone paid me to write for them. So I think that's an important note. It's not like I just woke up one day and decided to write for some of these huge publications. I had to kind of go through my own little training period there. And then I met people who liked my writing, and they said, oh, well, hey, actually, I know that the editor here is looking for a new writer. Do you want me to introduce you? And I already had a portfolio that spoke to my abilities. And that is the thing that made these new opportunities available to me.
Let's unpack that a little bit because you shared a few things there, which I think are critical in terms of, well, especially freelancing, but even just, building a business. You didn't start writing and just started writing for HubSpot and GoDaddy. You practiced your skill, you refined your skill, you learned new things that you needed to know to make that skill sellable.
Yes, you nailed it. Yeah, who's gonna I think if you think about doing something for the first time, and I meet people who have never published work online, they've never published writing on the internet, and they tell me that they send me messages sometimes that say, I really want to write for HubSpot. Can you introduce me to your editor? And I think it's good to think about trying to sell your first attempt at anything. Like, if someone offered you money to make them a wedding cake, would you say, all right, sure, why not? And then make your first wedding cake ever and try to sell it? I think it's good to have that kind of 10,000 hours mindset that you need to do something for 10,000 hours before you're professional. And that number has been like thoroughly debunked. 10,000 hours specifically doesn't mean anything, but it's the mindset that practice is important and it's necessary, and you're getting better every time that you do it.
And the thing is that, I truly agree with that, but I think you can still be making money while you do this.
Yes,
It's just you're not going to instantly go from never writing anything to writing for big companies, or writing a best-selling book, or writing social media content that's viral. Like, that kind of stuff comes with time, and sometimes networking, and like there's more than just the writing. You have to build a network. You got those jobs because you knew the right people, and when the time was right and you had proven yourself and the opportunity came, it wasn't luck that you got it. You had preparation.
Yeah. None of these introductions either came quickly. Like the person who introduced me to the GoDaddy editor, I knew her for, I think, 3 years. It's not like I sought these people out because I wanted them to open doors for me. We were just genuine. We became genuine friends. And I think that that's what a lot of people are doing right on LinkedIn. They want to hop on, it's called a coffee chat on LinkedIn, where you hop on Zoom for 30 minutes and you just get to know somebody. There's no sales pitches, and it doesn't even have to be about business. It can just be about getting to know each other, but you are forming actual relationships. And that's what networking is. I just recently wrote an article for HubSpot on networking. And one of the sources, his name was Adam Connor. He called it your friendship 401k. And how valuable that like bank of, it is. And I just love thinking about it that way. I think it's so healthy.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, that's one of the things you can do about LinkedIn. It is a platform where people want to get to know each other. They want to make those professional connections. They want to build that network of people. And they're don't get me wrong, there's always the scammers and the whatever, but there is a true authentic group of people on LinkedIn who are looking to professionally network, create those relationships, create a network of people that they know, like, and trust, where business is referred back and forth to each other, opportunities are given to each other, and that takes time and effort.
It really does. Yeah, it's not something that is going to come right away. And I don't think it's wise to see it as such, to kind of go into like a short-term mindset. Like in January, every year, January 1st, everybody opens up LinkedIn and makes a post about how they're going to post every day on LinkedIn for a year and build their network. And most people quit by March. They peter out.
I don't think most people make it through January.
No, I was being generous. I was also thinking that most people don't make it through January, but I wanted to give people a little bit more, hope.
Here's the thing. I don't think you have to post every day on LinkedIn. I think, if you're posting like one article a week, a couple of posts, maybe a live video, that's about all the content you need on LinkedIn. Like, you don't need to be, and your video could be about the article, so it's not like it has to be two different topics. You could kind of write the blog and then talk about the same topic. It's just giving it in different formats. Or you do the reverse, is you do the video, you transcribe it, you work on it so it's actually a good written piece of content, and then you put it out later in the week as an article.
Yeah. And then commenting and spending time, like the most important form of content on LinkedIn is commenting and getting to know people, and people getting to know you, and treating it like a two-way phone conversation instead of a megaphone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, we are going to take a short break here. Audience, if you want to know how to write a book that converts readers into clients and then use that book to scale your business, you are going to want to listen to this short ad and take advantage of this free resource. Welcome back, Kayla. We've just been talking about LinkedIn. We've been talking about, what you can do to really make it work. And, it's things that people don't talk about too much. I mean, they always talk about, the what I call the shiny objects, like you get this thing and you just plug it in and it does all the work for you. And, you've got thousands of LinkedIn followers. And, first of all, what they don't realize is that LinkedIn will ban you for using that stuff. They don't ban the companies that create it. They just ban you when you use it. So when they say that LinkedIn allows it, technically, yes.
Yeah.
But what they don't share with you is the fact that in the terms and conditions that if you use it, so, I think one of the biggest things that we were just talking about is the authenticity.
Yeah.
Being authentic, making it the goal to create relationships, build your network. From the content side, create content that, is meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. And things that other people can engage with. I find that content that people can react to easily does really well because it's an easy conversation to start. And like one of my most viral posts or posts that got the most engagement was I asked, what's something that if we met in real life, everyone says to you, because you might not hear that ever online. And I've had friends for years who I've had like real friendships online, but they don't know how tall I am. But I'm 6 feet tall. If we met in real life, you would say, wow, you're so tall. So I said that
Yeah,
one day. I
me
said, if
too.
we
I'm 5'10" and a half.
Oh yeah, okay. You can yeah. So, but it's funny how online you could be friends with someone for years and not know that. And I said, well, what's one thing if we met in real life that people that I would probably say to you, but I don't know online. And that little thread got so much engagement, and I was getting messages and comments for days about how tall people were. There was quite the diversity. I had no idea. It was just fun. It was human conversation and it was really easy to engage with. And I think that that's like a real no-brainer on LinkedIn.
Mm. Well, I want to shift gears here because I want to make sure we've got lots of time here to talk about your book. So it's going to be called How to Be a Digital Nomad. So first of all, why did you write the book?
I'm really passionate about the conversation about digital nomadism and not like the new conversation. So since 2020, a lot of people are now aware of the lifestyle. And there's kind of this misconception that digital nomadism was born in with the pandemic, like remote work just emerged that day, that year. And I try to give the perspective because I became a digital nomad in 2017 and people thought it was so weird. No one had ever heard of this term before, even though the term was not new, but it was like not a part of this like social like conversation. And people acted like it was really strange and bizarre. And in my research for the book, I found that the digital nomadism goes all the way back to the 80s and people are
Really, that
still
far back?
yeah, the first portable computer. I found the first digital nomad. His name's Stephen Roberts, and he is a technology writer, and he got the Radio Shack Model 100 computer, and he used yeah, even Radio Shack is a blast from the past. I feel like if there are any Gen Z listeners, they're going to be like, "What's that? Is that a website?" That was the premier technology. Stop.
Oh, and it was.
It
I
was
mean,
everything.
my dad was into computers in the 70s. Okay. I was the only kid with a computer. The only
Mm,
kid. Most people didn't even know what computers were, and I had one in my house. And Radio Shack,
yeah.
trash 80 computer, didn't even have floppy drives. Okay, so
Oh
some
no.
of you
Yeah.
listening don't even know what floppy drives are. Well, these were the computers before floppy drives where you had to manually program in, like you typed in the program hoped you got it right, because if you typed one thing wrong, the program would not work. And my dad would design programs on the side. And so my job was to either type them in, not that I was a great typist, but I was willing to do it. Or secondly, check my dad's work, because half the time his typing was worse than mine. So I just went through and fixed his typing so that the code would work.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
yeah, so I had a computer in my house, and Radio Shack. My husband, when I met my husband, he was working at Radio Shack.
Yeah, it was everything back then. Even into the 90s and early 2000s. I actually don't remember when they went out of business, but yes, I just think it's so fun to look at the movement as a whole, because I think it's important for anyone to acknowledge the history of what they're a part of, and not that anyone. I mean, it doesn't change anything about how you act or behave, but I think that it's easy for kind of every generation to feel like they're the first ones to feel this way. And in reality, people have always felt like, I just want to quit my job and travel. That it is not a new feeling. And the technology isn't even that new. It's evolved, but it's not new. And so I found digital nomads that were there living this lifestyle at all the big moments in the technological chain. So Stephen K. Roberts in the 80s with portable computers, Rob Palmer in the 90s with dial-up internet. He was driving an RV with his 4 kids and his wife and a computer, and he would pull up to people's houses and knock on their door and ask them, do you have dial-up internet, and can I pay you to use it? And if they said yes, then he would string the cord through the window of the house and into his RV and plug it into his computer and do his work. And then from there, it was internet Wi-Fi cafes in the early 2000s, and then home Wi-Fi and smartphones, and then the pandemic. And those were the big milestones in this lifestyle. I think it's so much fun to hear the stories of what it was. And everyone who talked about it said that it was they didn't mind. Like, can you imagine having to use like cable internet or a Wi-Fi cafe where you had, and those still exist in some countries because Wi-Fi isn't legal everywhere. You have to go to an internet cafe. But oh my, it's just so fun, I think, to look back. And I even asked Steven, were you ever annoyed by the technology? He would send his articles through a payphone with something called an acoustic coupler. It was like suction cups that went on both ends of the payphone, the receiver. And I asked him, were you ever annoyed with all these steps? Because look at us, like, who doesn't get annoyed when the Wi-Fi is a little slow? Like, we have no patience for it anymore. And he said, no, that was the fun. It was so cool. And I just think it's a really cool moment to look back and see what people were doing then and what they're doing now. Because all the people I interviewed are still traveling or doing something non-standard or living in another country. And I think it's just a really cool group of people to join. And I think everyone who becomes a digital nomad, it's nice to look back and see we're not new, this isn't a new thing. There's a cool backstory, and you're just the latest chink in the chain of people who thought, I'd like to do that. I'd like to travel, and it's nice to make some money as I go.
So you talk in the book a lot about the history. But do you have the how-tos in the book as well?
Oh yeah. I cover everything from what type of work are you going to do, and where should you go, and the technology you need, and how do you avoid trouble. I assume a lot of people are going to go abroad. You can absolutely be a digital nomad in your home country, but if you're going to go abroad, how do you keep yourself healthy? How do you handle health problems whenever they happen? Because if you stay abroad long enough, everything that would have happened to you at home will happen. Like, your credit card will get stolen or lost. You'll end up needing to go to the doctor for something. That's just how life is. And the longer you're abroad, the more likely it is that you're going to have to handle these things. So I talk a lot about preventing problems and managing them and communicating it with your team, because you're not a successful digital nomad if you don't keep your career going. You're going to run out of money or get fired. It happens all the time that people I don't know, that they are surprised by how much work they need to do, or they don't work enough, or their team says, there are layoffs, and since you're not here anyway, it's going to start with you. People lose their jobs every day at home. So of course you might lose your job whenever you're abroad. So how do you insulate yourself from, these kind of fumbles that are really natural to happen.
So, Kayla, I'm going to ask the question I ask every author that comes on the show.
Okay.
What has been the good, the bad, and the ugly of writing, producing, and publishing this book?
Oh my. Okay. I will say that the bad was getting endorsements. That was the most grueling email. It's like number of emails I had to send in my life, having to email people and ask them to read my work and compliment it if they felt, if they were willing to do so. That was terrible. And just knowing that it couldn't be edited, I had a lot of anxiety submitting my last round of edits to my publisher and knowing that I can't make changes. That like kept me up at night for a week. I did not sleep well for a week. That
because
was
this
the bad.
was it. This was the final version. This was done. No more analysis. Like,
and then the next day I thought, oh, of course, I had the best story to tell for that, lesson and why. Oh, I wish I could go edit it. Is it too late? And on my mind, I'm like, well, just start making edits in the Google Doc, and that'll be, if there's a version 2 or what is it, a second edition, you can make these edits. And I had to tell, I just stopped myself. No, that's crazy. This book isn't even published. It's not even print, or at the time it wasn't even printed. You cannot start on edition 2 because you're so worried about having been able to do it 1% better. Actually, that was the ugliest part of it, I will say. The bad was the final month of writing. I wrote from January till the end of June, and that last month in June, I hardly did anything. I think I was writing heads down for 12 hours a day for the whole month. And I have a vitamin D lamp that I use to help keep me awake, and I had it on for 12 hours a day. I couldn't fall asleep because my brain was so turned on by this light. I couldn't fall asleep. And I was telling my husband, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just so worried. And he's like, it's that ball of sun next to your computer. You're burning your eyeballs. I'm like, that is it, isn't it? I was just so hyper focused. That was bad, but it was the end. It was the end of a long journey. It just had to happen, running for the finish line. And the good was hearing people read it, because I've done a lot of writing, but it's always been marketing. I'm a marketer, so I write marketing for HubSpot and GoDaddy, these publications where I ghostwrite for clients about the things that they really care about. But I'd never written about things that I loved that were, outside of my professional realm. So hearing people say that they liked the way I talked about life and travel and career, that was a first for me. And it was so nice. I took screenshots of every nice thing that everybody said, and I saved them in a folder on my phone, and I read them often. That's sad.
So, Kayla, let's talk about your book launch. It's tomorrow. What is that going to look like?
Most of the work's done. I've done a lot of writing, a lot of interviews. I'm just hoping it goes well. I have no idea what to expect. Absolutely no idea. I'm glad that I worked on the launch for so long, because I started heavily working on the launch at the beginning of October. So it was, a lot of it's done already. And my publisher provided a lot of support, a lot. So I've been incredibly lucky. I think a lot of people don't have positive experiences with their publishers, and I have nothing but good things to say about my experience. So I feel really, really lucky. I feel like I really had a team behind this launch, and that's pretty cool.
I love it. I love to hear that, because I hear a lot of stories about the other side of publishers, and it's like, oh, come on, you guys, do better. Do better.
There will be a bottle of champagne. I should have said that. Sorry. That's my plan for tomorrow. A bottle of champagne that my husband doesn't like. So it'll just be me. And I'm traveling. So I'm not having a party. I'm not physically with anyone except my husband. So it's it's very on brand with the book.
So, Kayla, if people are listening to this and they want to get the book tomorrow, January 30th, how do they find it?
They can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. It's on the websites there. I don't know where it's going to be on the shelves yet. I kind of don't know until it happens. But I think Amazon is most people's favorite book distributor. And look at your local bookstores as well. I know you'll have the link in the comments. It's better to search for my name because there are other books called How to Be a Digital Nomad. So it's better to search for my name, and then you'll find it if you can buy it from an independent bookstore. That's such a nice way to support them.
Kayla, spell your name for us.
Ihrig, Ihrig. And my first name is Kayla, spelled the traditional way, Kayla.
For all of those who are listening to the podcast.
Yes, sorry, I was thinking about the show notes, but if you're listening, Kayla Ihrig, I hope you can find it from another a local retailer.
Wow. Kayla, we have time for you to give one final thought before we sign off.
Oh, I would say that if travel is not for everyone, digital nomadism is not for everyone. But if you've always wanted to travel more and you think that you want to try this, then you really, really, really should, because it's so if it calls to you, it's just even better than you can imagine. It's such a cool way to do your work and experience, experience more out of your day if that's what you are aiming for.
Love it. Love it. Audience, if you've enjoyed today's episode, I'm going to get you to be going way, way back today to episode 380, Book Publishing Basics, with myself and my previous co-host, Juanita Wooden-Radko. If you're on YouTube, you will find the thumbnail here somewhere, depending on where my daughter put it today. And if you're on your podcast app, you're probably going to be scanning back probably 80, 90 to 100 episodes, because I'm not quite sure what episode number this one is yet, because it's being filmed way ahead of time. But scan back, because we really dive into book publishing. And if you have thought about writing a book, this will give you some great basics to get you started. Audience, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.